what I'm planning to cover in the meeting is primarily the game design documents. I do apologize if my voice has got static behind it. Apparently my microphone has an issue. If anyone's having a hard time hearing me, just ask a question and I'll repeat whatever I just said or whatever you need me to repeat. Hoping by middle of this year to get a solid release out so we have something for people to play and everyone to enjoy. At least a vertical slice of the game. Computer, ship, planet, player interaction with other players, walking around. Maybe not necessarily ship building, though that would be nice. But within 6 months, may not be feasible to get that in like we want it. So the game design document is getting fleshed out pretty good. Some big chunk missing is the ship building section. There is quite a few bits about meta gameplay, such as the networking models, which will be worked on primarily starting in February. Basic connections I think we can accomplish this month. Maybe a chat window or some form of player entity synchronization where you can see another player moving around in your instance of the world, and they'll move around and you guys share the same instance. Major networking will start next month though. This month what I want to work on is gameplay itself, interacting with the computer, interacting with switches, like a light switch to turn on and off a light, or turn on or off the computer, being able to collide with items, entities, and have some kind of a response. Also, having the virtual computer being able to control various entities. Whole ship movement from thrusters, probably not this month, but being able to fire up the thruster and see what thrust level it's at. For example, I can see us getting that in. In the design document, one of the goals I put was drive ships. By that I just mean you can interact with the ship, where you go to a steering console, interact with a key or a click, and you get a third-person view of the ship, and you can just move it around. And then you press maybe the escape key or something, and it brings you back to your player. Something to just give people something to do inside the world besides walk around in a hangar. Another important part will be our graphical interface to provide feedback to the player that something's actually happening, or so the player knows the state of things. We can currently do that with the virtual computer to some degree, but there's just some things that the virtual computer shouldn't be using, like player health. Really, that's a meta system. Don't know if we need it. I'm just using it as an example. The computer won't be tracking the player's health. So it'd be kind of disconnected if the computer was showing the player's health. We need player model. I know we have some on the Trello that we can use. If we can work on those to get them animated. I don't know if they're rigged yet. Just walking animation, so the player has some sense of being in the world. On the back end, in order to facilitate placing of objects, we need to flesh out the saving to JSON or to a stream that could be sent over a network or to a disk. So we're going to work on an interface that the destination of the stream is just a virtual interface that can be swapped to network or disk or memory, console, etc. And make all the JSON interfaces for all components consistent, where every load and save method is meant to accomplish the same goal. And then we also need to work on, in the engine, some form of rendering of text inside 3D space, just so we can provide some kind of a feedback, maybe a text over a button that says what the button is. That could be independent of the graphic interface. Then next month we'll build on that. Misaka is working on a graphic interface from scratch to maybe replace LibRocket that was being toyed with, but it has some shortcomings. It'll be used for the January goal, just to provide basic feedback, but beyond that, it'll be replaced. February, looking to provide better support for networking, good synchronization for multiple entities, entity places, player places an entity. It would be synchronized across the network to all the other connected players. We need another interaction is placing of wires and conduit, which is you select it from your tools or your inventory, or however we represent that in a meta system, and you choose a point, a connection point, where you're placing the conduit or wire, and then you move along and choose the next one, and it draws, not in the actual sense of drawing, but it connects the two with a wire or conduit. Later on, that could be visually represented by, as you move, a wire is dragged by your player until you click and it pulls tight. But for now, it's just going to be click start, click end, and, or at least for February, a wire or conduit just appears there. And with that, there will be some kind of a transmission system for data or power that'll be able to detect connections from wire to wire to the endpoint or the control, to allow the virtual computer to control a thruster if it's connected via wires or conduits for oxygen or other such non-electrical. Moving on to March, with the new user interface, player inventories, which will allow us to track what the player has, and they'll be able to select what they want to use, what tools or items they want to use inside the world. Um, on here is trading between players in March that may or may not be feasible, depending on if we get the synchronization for the user interface set up with the network. Some tool models for you artists out there. Olenji put down, or somebody put down, a few items such as a monkey wrench or a wire cutter, just so the player has some kind of visual feedback that they are in fact interacting with something with a tool and not just magically doing it. The whole goal right now is providing some kind of feedback to the player that they're interacting with the world in a meaningful way, so they're not just, oh, I get to walk around in a hangar. That anybody can do that in 10 minutes in an engine. But by providing feedback with actual gameplay elements, the player is going to feel like we're actually accomplishing something, the users. Moving on to April and May, not really much laid out as far as gameplay and engine yet. That's more artists continue working on tools, and Olenji is certainly wants a lot of weapon stuff. Those could be added in as different types of tools that do different things. Uh, then I know that currently we have planets in the works. Interacting with them is probably going to be another thing in March when we have the inventories. This month, the goal is to add triggers and events in script, and so the planets, we can add triggers to different aspects on the planets that the player can interact with. A rock, and when they trigger the rock, it would go into their inventory, for example. Yes, palindrome. I think there's a question. The virtual computer, I know we're working to actually use that in the game by placing different aspects of the computer. Currently, there is no OS. There's some drivers in the works, but no full-featured OS. Zardoz can answer those questions about the TR a lot better than I can, since it's his creation.
Well, sorry, you can listen to me? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Ah, okay. Sorry for my poor English. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to tell. Um, well, we have two basic firmware working actually. One made by Meisaka, and one I and one I made uh, but candidate devils. Sorry.
Good attempt. Good attempt. Um, you can type it good though. I think there's some work on compilers for other languages as well. They'll compile down to the TR3200 bytecode that would allow creating OSs in other languages besides just assembly. Zardoz, I think you're working on, or have worked on, some kind of a document that kind of combines all this information, or if not, can you? Maybe on the wiki in the GitHub page. So that anyone who wants to get involved with programming for that, they'll be able to get all the resources right there. And then, yep, the Trello. We're going to use that to some degree again. Currently there is spreadsheets for the art and music we have. And with the art, you can post or use the spreadsheet. The link is in the game design document. That'll say what we need, and when you have those completed or have any ideas, images, etc., use the Trello, make a new card for it on there, just to kind of show it off. We're going to use that as a repository. I'll put a link to the Trello in the game design document as well. But they're to be used in tandem and not just one or the other. And music, we have a lot of that's done. Sound effects, we have those as well. Those are in the spreadsheet. Just need to get them in to the game itself. If you don't know Lua and are learning it, please send me some information. I don't know Lua very well. I'm learning it just as well as you guys are. And so Lua is going to be having access to all the triggers and events that are going to be sent from the engine. And it'll have access to changing of components and creating of components and entities. So that's what the focus is going to be on, is exposing all that to Lua this month in the engine and using that to interact with the world. Are there any other questions? And then again, this is just for the first couple months. The main goal of this meeting, I just wanted to kind of go over the schedule and the goals for the first couple months, just to kind of reinvigorate development, get us pumping again, get something out the door. So I do plan on having another meeting on the everything process. Um, but hopefully another meeting here in, let's shoot for the beginning of February, or no, let's shoot for the end of January, just to recap what we've finished and accomplished in the next 3 weeks. That's plenty of time to accomplish some things, maybe get some player interaction with the world in. Yeah, art style. The Olinji had posted a good image that I do not have the link for anymore. Let me see if I can find that for you. Oh, looks like I do not have that anymore. The link is dead. So that won't work for us. I will get that to you for the art style. It's going to be not a lot of textures, more colors and shading. Keep it simple. As far as the game logic itself, let's try and shuffle as much of that to Lua as possible. Make modding easier, and this way we can keep all the logic in one place. Devin, is there any chance you can go over the OSX compiling and building instructions and maybe update them? Somebody is having an issue with OSX Yosemite. Thank you. And Palindrome, there's also a link for joining the voice chat portion of the meeting. We didn't hand that out in the beginning because it would fill up really fast, because the Google Hangouts, when they're on air, they can't support more than 10 people. But I guess recently we haven't had as many active people. I will try and trim down the Trello board some, make them consistent, Zardoz, so that we have consistency. I'm trying to do that with the game design document and the technical document that's working and works. Some of it's done, that'll describe more detail how each system works, how the components work. It's in the wiki right now, but I'm gonna put it in the document as well to just make one big document that kind of has everything in it. so it can be referenced instead of having to go to this wiki page and this wiki page. The wiki will probably be the most up-to-date information, but the document will help us put everything in stone and go from there. Okay. Yeah, so I won't touch the virtual computer one. I'll just work on the other Trello boards. And maybe we can work to organize the build system a little bit better. Windows is special. Linux is consistent. OS X, they go their own road, it would seem. So maybe we'll have to have a separate section in each one, or something, a separate file that is just included based on the OS. This way we can make a separate method for finding the libraries and such based on the OS. The link is just for viewing. The voice link, I didn't post that just because I wasn't sure how many people were actually going to be viewing. That's the voice link for just this one as an example. I didn't want everyone to bum rush into that. And that should work to get you into the voice chat. But I'm going to set up another meeting link for the end of the month. If this time was good for everyone, let me know when I post the link on the Reddit. If it can be better for anyone, post there as well. Yeah, the Trello I know they use in a lot of agile development, where they have boards for in progress, next iteration, done, review, just to kind of have a flow. And we did have that going on, but what is the word I'm looking for? Kind of broke down. That's the best I got for now. That's the best example of what we have going on as far as organization is concerned. And most of these goals are still pretty valid. When they're valid is, or when they're meant to be accomplished is not necessarily valid anymore, but I'll go through and try and organize that this coming weekend, as I'll have more time this week. I will continue working on exposing Lua, entities and their components to Lua. I saw your commits, Catageek, and I will see how well they work. The actual code itself, I'm sure, is good, but I meant as far as integrating it with Lua. I doubt it'll be much of an issue. And then we'll just need to keep focusing on the gameplay systems and exposing stuff to Lua, so the players feel like they're actually starting to interact with the world and not just a viewer. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm gonna end the presentation, you can call it that, but I'll still be on the chat room. So if there's any more questions, you can ask them in there.